So this week, two countries celebrated their birthdays within days of each other. On one national stage, Canada's culture minister stepped to the microphone and said, "We kneel for nobody." On the American stage, a stage piece crashed down on dancers during rehearsal, masked white nationalists marched through Washington carrying Confederate flags, and the president described half of his country as a cancer that needed to be cut out fast.
Those are not cherry-picked moments. They are a sample of what both countries chose to put on display on their national birthdays. And then America's own ambassador to Canada at his July 4th party in Ottawa invited a convicted criminal to the celebration as a personal guest and used the occasion to lobby Canada on trade on a diplomatic friendship holiday.
What happened this week was not just a tale of two countries. It was a demonstration of two completely different ideas about what a country is for and which direction each one is heading. We're going to walk you through all of it.
So, Marc Carney was in Ottawa at Le Breton Flats speaking to thousands of people on a hot July afternoon. He had planned to fly to Edmonton later that same day, which was chosen for a reason. Alberta is heading towards a separatist vote this fall, and Carney wanted to stand in that province on Canada Day specifically and make the case that this country is worth keeping together.
Well, unfortunately, the weather grounded the flight and he had to stay in Ottawa. But the intention alone tells you something about how he is approaching this moment. He's not pretending that the Western tensions don't exist. He's flying directly into them and making the argument face to face.
His central message was direct. Unity does not require uniformity. Canadians can disagree about energy, about climate, about provincial rights, about the direction of the economy. And that disagreement does not have to turn neighbors into enemies.
He also connected the speech to something really concrete. Canadian workers, Canadian materials, Canadian values. He asked Canadians to buy Canadian food, to travel within Canada, to support domestic businesses. Not as a slogan, but as small acts of economic solidarity that accumulate into something real across this country.
And there was a moment with Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, who spoke about what crew depends on: shared sacrifice, mutual trust, people showing up for each other in conditions they did not choose. Carney wove that into the day without turning the entire celebration into a tribute to himself. The story being told was Canada. The Prime Minister was one voice inside it.
And then his culture minister, Marc Miller, stepped onto that same stage and said something that cut through everything else that weekend. His exact words were this: "Let no one mistake our mild manner for weakness. We kneel for nobody. And in face of pressures, we do not stand smaller. We stand more united, more determined, more Canadian than ever." Now, the crowd heard that and knew exactly what he was talking about. It was the perfect message for the moment.
Now, let's talk about the train wreck that was July 4th in the United States of America. And let's be honest about what the weekend actually looked like, because it was not a great advertisement for the country, to say the least, Dave.
No. So let's start with the stage. The Freedom 250 celebration, the Trump-aligned group that effectively took over the official 250th anniversary event, had their stage come apart during rehearsal on July 2nd. A large overhead piece detached and came crashing down while dancers were mid-routine. It narrowly missed them. The whole thing was caught on video.
Then there was the skydiver, carrying an American flag at a July 4th weekend celebration in California. The flag snagged a tree on the way down, and the skydiver crashed directly into a tent full of spectators. That was also caught on video. It also went viral on the 250th birthday of the nation.
And then, on the National Mall itself, on the actual 4th of July, a group of masked white nationalists from Patriot Front marched through Washington carrying Confederate flags alongside American flags on the 250th birthday of the American Republic in the capital city, while the official celebration was actually happening.
Now, none of that was accidental. When the organization running your national birthday is a partisan group with direct ties to the White House that got $60-some-odd million, by the way, when masked men nationalists feel comfortable marching openly through Washington on that specific day, that is a set of choices, not a run of bad luck. The event was a metaphor before the fireworks even went off.
And then Trump spoke. He described a communist menace inside America. He raised gun rights. He made a third-term joke. He described his political opponents as, and these are his exact words, a cancer that needed to be cut out fast. On the 250th birthday of a country that survived a civil war, 2 world wars, a Great Depression, a president could have spoken about the democratic habits that keep a republic alive for 2.5 centuries. But he chose to describe part of the population as a disease instead.
A Reuters Ipsos poll found that most Americans believed the anniversary events had become too political, and that included half of Republicans even. So this reaction is not coming only from Democrats or from people watching from the outside of the country. A huge share of Trump's own voters could see what was happening on the celebration.
No, and it wasn't just happening in Washington, though. America's ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, hosted his Independence Day party right here in Ottawa at his official residence on July 4th. And he used it the exact same way.
He brought out the F-35 fighter jets to roar over the crowd. Then he stepped to the podium and, at a celebration supposedly honoring the friendship between two countries, he used the moment to lobby Canada on trade. His exact words from the stage were, "Next year, hopefully, we can all take a toast of American bourbon legally in the province of Ontario." Yeah, a real diplomatic celebration. What a jerk.
Yeah. And then he also chose that moment to weigh in on the Gordie Howe Bridge. You know, the bridge that Canada built, financed, and that the Trump administration has been blocking from opening. Well, Hoekstra told the crowd, we got to figure out that bridge thing, as if it were a minor administrative hiccup rather than a deliberate delay. He even told the crowd that Canada paying for the bridge, in his words, a big myth.
It is time to get this guy out of the country. He is not trying to bring the two countries together. He is trying to divide Canadians, and I've had enough of it.
And you know what's also crazy is his big myth comment? Well, that landed so badly that Stephen Harper's own director of communications, the man who was actually in the room when the original agreement was signed, publicly called Hoekstra the ambassador for gaslight to Canada. Canada paid, Canada financed it, Canada built it. Those are not contested facts. They are on the record. And the ambassador told the crowd in Ottawa the opposite, at a party that was meant to celebrate friendship between the two countries.
But here's the moment that really tells you what this ambassador thinks of his job. Among the guests that Hoekstra personally welcomed to that party was Tamara Lich, the organizer of the Freedom Convoy, who was convicted of mischief and is currently serving a conditional sentence. She was under house arrest, curfew, and she posted about herself. It was an honor and a pleasure to attend.
Think about that. Think about that choice. The United States ambassador to Canada, whose entire job is to build and maintain the relationship between our two countries, chose a national birthday celebration to invite a woman convicted for her role in paralyzing the Canadian capital and defying Canadian courts. While Carney was using Canada Day to make the case for keeping the country together, the American ambassador was using July 4th to welcome someone convicted of trying to pull it apart. And here's the sharpest difference across everything that we just laid out. Carney used patriotism as an invitation. Trump and his ambassador used patriotism as a loyalty test.
Carney's version of national pride says, hey, we have different histories, different interests, different regions, and we still have enough in common to build something together. Trump's version keeps narrowing the circle. You belong fully when you agree only with him. You disagree with him, you will be found and punished and, according to him, taken out.
Yeah. Now listen, this is about two leaders making deliberate choices about what to amplify, right? Carney amplified belonging and collective purpose. Trump amplified fear, grievance, and suspicion. Those are two very different bets on what holds a country together, and the world is watching which bet actually pays off.
Yeah. Businesses read political volatility. Allies factor every agreement as potentially temporary. When institutions get treated as partisan obstacles and citizens get described as internal threats, that gets priced into a very long-term deal on the table. We've said it before and we'll say it again. Predictability has become its own form of power. And right now, Canada has it, no matter how hard that Hoekstra is trying to tear us apart.
And this is where Carney's birthday speech connects to the larger picture. He's been arguing for months that middle powers need to step up, countries with enough economic and diplomatic weight to bring others into alignment, even when they can't dictate terms on their own.
So there's an opening here, and it's reliability. Europe is looking for dependable energy and defense partners. Nordic countries want Arctic partners. Asian economies want stable suppliers of food, minerals, and critical resources. Canada has genuine offers on the table from each of those relationships.
And here's the signal that even Canada's posture toward America is being handled differently now. After Canada Day, Canada still honored America's 250th birthday. A joint military fly past, a gift of 250 maple trees, a message celebrating generations of shared friendship. Carney can hold firm on trade, refuse a bad deal, defend Canadian sovereignty, and still not treat the American people as an adversary. That combination, firmness without hostility, is rarer than it should be right now, and other governments, they've noticed.
So, did Prime Minister Carney upstage Trump on the world stage? Of course! He used a smaller stage to put a larger idea of citizenship on the table. And he showed why Canada is beginning to occupy leadership space that the United States is choosing to leave wide open.
Yeah, countries don't stay strong by endlessly declaring that they're the greatest.
So here's the question we want you to weigh in on. If Canada keeps building these international partnerships while the United States continues to pull back from its traditional alliances, do you think Canada actually locks in a permanently elevated global standing?
And let us know what you thought of Carney's speech on Canada Day and Trump's train wreck of a celebration.
So thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we shall see you tomorrow.
And before you go, don't forget to give this a like, hype, and a share so other people can comment as well.
What he said. Ciao for now.
Ciao for now.